Hi, this is Neil-Asher from the Aussie Online Entrepreneurs, where we help people just like you get themselves up, running and selling things on Amazon here in Australia. We've got over 2,000 members who've collectively sold over $50 million worth of their stuff on Amazon right around the world. You can find out more by going to www.aussieonlineentrepreneurs.com.au. In this video, we're going to talk about printing your own products for Amazon. Should you do it? I'm going to show you right now. All right, Tracy Bloody Whiteside, I'm coming for you, love. Let's go find Tracy, the awesome Tracy, and I don't know if you need to share your screen or something like that. You can tell me when I unmute you. Here we go, Tracy, I've confound you. I'm going to make you I'm just going to unmute you first, and you can tell me what you want to do. Hello, Tracy.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thanks, son. How's things?
Yeah, they're pretty good, thanks. Busy?
That's what I like to hear. Now, do you want me to make you the presenter so you can share your screen? What's the dealio?
Yeah, I'll share my screen. I've just got a couple of things that I'm gonna just let people have a look at while I'm talking.
Here's a lovely Tracy. We're going to share her screen. Now, whenever you're ready, you go right ahead. You should be able to. There you go.
Facebook.
Boom. We got it. We can see Facebook.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to talk about something actually brought up a few gremlins for me with regards to my past printing life, question that Rosie put on just a couple of days ago. So you hopefully can all see that question there.
Yep.
So what Rosie was asking about whether it is worth her getting a pad printer, and a pad printer will then be used so she can offer her products to B2B, I would imagine, and actually print their logo on her product. So pretty much what she's suggesting is that a company, whatever niche she's in, she would approach them. They would look at getting what we call in the printing industry a promotional product, because they're promoting themselves. So they're either going to give that as a giveaway to a certain number of clients. They might use it as a giveaway for their staff at Christmas time, that kind of thing. So, all right. So before I answer Rosie's question, well, my first answer actually for this initially was going to be a big fat no, don't do it. And for many reasons, but I thought maybe it's a little bit better for me to explain it to her. So Rosie sent me some questions privately that she wanted answering. So I'm just going to show you. So basically this is what a manual desktop kind of pad printer would look like, okay? And the ones that I had, I set up a printing business for family and personal reasons 20 years ago. My daughter was 5 at the time, so she's now 26. So that's how long ago it is. We set up a pad printing business. And we started off printing out of a bedroom. I had a much bigger unit than this. The one we had was an automatic one because we were looking at big runs, bigger quantities, that kind of thing. Something that Rosie is suggesting, then a desktop printer like this would be sufficient. This is a manual one as opposed to an automatic one. So this lever here you use.
And what would you actually use it for? What would be the purpose of, in an Amazon business, what would that actually do for an Amazon business?
So pad printing, it's just one of the many forms of printing. And this is really used for your smaller, it can be used for anything, but as long as it's not too big and it's a solid surface, doesn't go around corners like coffee mugs and drink bottles. That's a different process altogether. So you would if in your, for example, I'll just show you this next page. So say you had a gift set, for example. So here's your gift set. Most people would get their own branding on this particular kind of product. So here you can see there's a notebook, it's got a logo on it there. You've got the pen, you can also put a logo or a website printed on that. You've got a USB drive here. So it's in a nice little gift box. So ordinarily, you would get your supplier to put your logo on this particular product. But what Rosie is talking about is bringing this particular product in unbranded and then using the pad printer and approaching B2B clients and printing their logo on there for them.
Or
So
ostensibly her own logo to private label her own products.
She could do that, yes. But with pad printing and with this particular manual thing, you'll be looking at short runs. So if you were going to want to brand, say, 300 units, I would be getting the supplier or a particular printer to do that. And as I go through it more, I don't want to sort of portray a doom and gloom answer for somebody pad printing on their own, but yeah, you'll see why as I go further on. But so that's pretty much it. So Rosie's wanting to offer it to corporate clients and offer to put their logo on it for them.
Kind of like a wholesale deal, or just that they, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, again, I'll go through it in a sec, but there's two ways you can do it. You can just go direct to the clients and you can get a better price, or you can do it through what we call a print broker, which will be more of the wholesale kind of deal. Okay, so pad printing. So let's just go back to this image here. So what you have here, this is just the machine, okay, and the way it works, I'm just going to scroll through which image I wanted to show you. So basically, this here is where the ink sits in here. You've got a plate here which has your logo etched into it in here. Then you have the pad. So this is why it's called pad printing, because you have like a silicone pad, and I'll show you some images of those in a sec. Would sit on there, and then with this lever here, you manually bring this forward. It scrapes the ink over the top of the plate where the image is etched in. You're talking a fraction of a millimeter in there. And then the pad, your product sits here. Your pad then comes down, hits this image here, comes forward and transfers it onto your product there. So you bring this forward. Once you pull your pad print down, this takes the ink over it, your pad comes down, picks up the image of the ever so slightly etched plate onto the pad, and then down and transfers it onto here. So it is a manual process, and it is quite a tedious process as well. So I'm just going to go quickly through the questions, a couple of the questions that Rosie asked specifically for me. Would I recommend a manual printer or an automated printer? Okay, I've never used a manual printer, but I would say they are okay for short runs. Like I was mentioning earlier, we had the automatic one, and we were printing quantities of like 5, 10, 30,000 at a time. Okay, so to do that manually would just be totally unrealistic. But for the purpose of what Rosie is considering, a manual definitely would be fine. And a manual would be way cheaper. You know, something like this on eBay, you could probably get away with about $500. She's asked about the training, and you wouldn't get any training with paying this kind of price. Okay, even with the ones we brought a couple of printers in from Germany. We had to find somebody locally, obviously, to give us the training. We didn't even, I don't even know YouTube existed, or if it did, I never knew about it 20 years ago. So, you know, yeah, we didn't have all the good life of the online training. So to do it via YouTube, that again would be okay, but all you would get from YouTube is how to actually operate the machine, how to put the ink in here, how to put the pad on, how to use the lever, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's about the limit of the training you would get, and a manual that would go with it would just purely be operational as far as that's concerned. Okay, so another question that she asked, would a 1 or a 2 color printer be the better option? And you might remember a couple of months ago I covered on Q&A as well the branding documents and the logo situation with setting up your own brand and your own logo, and I recommended on there a maximum of 2 colors if possible. And this is one of the reasons why it comes down to the print process and the cost of printing as your 1 or 2 color logo as opposed to a full color logo. So most clients do actually go with 1 or 2. So I would recommend a 2 color printer, and then you've got that option there to offer clients that do have a 2 color logo. And some clients would have the variation of converting their 2 color to a 1 color version, and I covered that in that last Q&A. But some clients won't budge on their logo, will still insist on the 2 colors. So I would recommend they definitely go for a 2 color machine. Okay. What about the issues with regards to a cheap version of a printer? And I think that's just the same with anything. The cheaper you go, the more likely you're going to have problems. So it's not necessarily the best option in this case. Cheap as opposed to compared to an automatic, it was definitely cheap, but I wouldn't go for the cheapest manual version of a pad printer. Obviously you want to make sure that there's warranties there, but for something like this, you know, if you're importing it and buying it in from China, you know, a warranty might not be worth the paper it's written on. Okay. Now, as far as buying a cheap printer, there's a lot of other things that you have to buy to go with this printer. So whilst people are advertising this printer for you for $400 or $500, there's other things you have to buy to make this process work, and I'll just show you a couple of screens. Okay, so this is the first thing, your pads, obviously. You can see the whole range of silicone pads here. There's different shapes, there's different sizes. So for example, something this shape would be utilised like for golf balls, little round items like that. Something like this here. You can see my cursor moving, Neil?
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah. So something this shape here would be more for your pens, rulers, that kind of stuff. That USB drive like I showed on there. And then you've got the bigger ones like this one here. Would be used obviously for bigger images, but more square. Okay. So you've got to buy the pads in according to whatever logo you're going to be printing. So they are not cheap. And I don't have prices for you at the moment. You can see some here, but that is not the price. You know, even that there is very cheap, but it's an eBay thing. If you're buying from printers, for this kind of investment, I would suggest you buy from the actual suppliers of, you know, the ones that actually make pad printing machines, and you get the right supplies, because you get a cheap version of a pad, your whole logo just, you know, it just won't work. You'll have all sorts of problems. So there's them. Then you need your inks. Okay. Now, what was I just found an image before? Was it this one here? Here we go. Okay, so you've got your tubs of ink. Now, when you're dealing with corporate logos, obviously you've just got no idea what color is going to be their brand color. So whilst you can buy a range of inks specifically for the products that you're printing on, because there's a huge range of inks, you get different inks for printing on metal, you get different inks for printing on plastic, you get different inks for printing on stress toys, for example, you know, the squeegee foamy things. There's a different set of inks for a different kind of products that you're printing on. So whilst you can buy the set specifically for your product, you still have to buy a range of them. Okay, so that's one thing. You need a laser printer, because to print on this, see these here, these are the plates that I was talking about. So in that area there, you'd have the plate. So that's these here, they come in the length, double length or a single length. And for that manual machine there, it'd be a double length there. That's the plates there. So to get that image etched into here, you first of all have to print the image on a laser printer, 100% black. And if your printer's playing up and it's got bits of lines in it, that is just going to transfer to this. Okay, so you have to have a good laser printer to get it started. Then to actually get the print from what you've printed from the laser printer, which goes on like a clear film, then you need a plate what we call a plate maker that transfers it from that film into the plate. So that's the next step. So it goes from your laser printer, you print it on a clear film, you use the plate maker to etch it into your plate. So once you've etched it into your plate, then you're good to go. Then we go to getting the right colour for your particular client. So say they're going, I've opened up the Pantone here, you need one of these. Because in this Pantone Formula guide, if you pick a particular colour, you know, a popular one that I still remember now that we used for a couple of big mining companies was a red 485. We have to go to this particular colour chart here, and on the back of this, it tells you which particular inks you have to mix together and what percentage of each ink to be able to come up with the colour 485. So you can see, so you've got many different components to actually setting up a pad printer and getting it operational. Right, so that's all the things there. That's all the different components that you're going to need.
Wow.
So now,
is anybody else sitting there thinking, yep, there's a reason I get my factory to do all that for me?
Yeah, so just to finish off, a couple of things here. My recommendation would be, don't buy your own pad printer. I mentioned it to my partner yesterday that I've got a question I was going to cover, and because she was the main pad printer in our printing business, and she's like, "Did you tell them no?"
For God's sake,
no, don't do it. You know, so besides you actually having all these components and setting it up, when you actually come to printing, if you've done your plate right, if you've done your film right, and everything's right, then you're still dealing with issues like the environment and your ink being too thin or your ink being too thick. It's just massive. It's not something that you can learn from YouTube or even 3 or 4 sessions from an expert. It is constant troubleshooting. So at the end of the day, I'm going to say, don't do it. Okay. So there's a couple of things to do. Find a local printer. Now, a local printer will have minimum order quantities, just like what Alibaba have. They will have a setup cost for a particular logo and that's to cover the setting up of the film and the plate and all of that process for you. They will mix the right colour. They will have the right ink for the product that you're printing on. Okay, so that's one way you can still do it, but you'd obviously get prices, and then you know what minimums you need to offer to your client to be able to do that. When you're dealing with a client direct like that, you need to have a little bit of knowledge on artwork as well, and what requirements you're going to need from them with regards to their logo. PNG files or JPEGs don't work with the printing industry. So you would need PDF and or PNG for your printer. The last alternative, I'm just going to go to one more website up here. If you Google promotional printers, you'll get ones that come up in your own area, I'd imagine, because I've got all this Mac stuff here. Google promotional printers. Now, when you Google these are actually, in the most part, brokers, okay? So they are the ones that have the clients, like your BHPs and your Bank West and, you know, Virgin and all of them. They're their clients, and then they're the ones that show your particular product to their clients. So if you had something like this, you would approach them and say, okay, I've got this. I can offer it to you wholesale. It would have to be wholesale. Are you interested? Do you have clients that could that would like, you know, this kind of product to give away to their clients or to their staff or whatever? So these are the print brokers. So they're looking for suppliers. And this particular supplier here, Logo Line, they have a massive, this is one supplier that I remembered from 20 years ago. You can see have all of this, all of these. So these people here buy from places like Logo Line, offer it to their client, get the printer to print their logo on there, the client's logo on there, and they just do a markup. So, you know, they buy the product, they know how much it's going to cost, and then they'll put a plus 30% for them, and that's how much the client pays. So this is a good way if you've got stock, and if you know you've got enough stock, because one of these could come to you and say, okay, I'd like 200 off you, or they might come back and say, I'd like 20 off you. So you've got to have stock on hand to be able to utilize this this method, but it is just another way of getting your product out there, getting it off of Amazon and selling it somewhere else.
Fantastic. And the bottom line is,
bottom line is
you'd have to be
Rosie,
nuts to do this yourself.
Don't pad print.
You'd have to be insane to do this yourself. Look at all the work involved in that. Absolutely.
There's so much work, and yes, you know, if you've got time and you want to save some money, do it yourself. But you know, we had issues when we were learning, because we set this up from nowhere 20 years ago. We had issues with stock coming back saying that the ink's rubbing off. So, you know, then you've got a really non-happy customer, because there's so many variables to being able to treat a product and make sure that the ink's staying on, and you don't know that when you're learning.
Crazy.
So no,
I'm a big believer in outsourcing as much as possible, and this definitely falls into the realm of outsource.
Yeah.
Tracy, that was awesome. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom with us about that.
Okay, no worries.
All right, I'm going to mute Tracy. All right, so that, I reckon, definitely falls into the realms of you'd have to be insane to do that yourself. Clearly, Tracy's spent bloody years honing her skills on that. We should definitely listen to her. That's not something we should be doing at all. All right, I'm going to make myself the presenter again, just so you know what's going on, Tracy. Share this window. All right. For me, doing work like that yourself is insane. When it's like figuring out how to do your own freight forwarding. It's insane. Why would you do that when you can get it done so much better, consistently better by somebody else? It's insanity to do it yourself. Anything like that within your Amazon business where it takes you ages to learn how to do it, you should absolutely be outsourcing it. Absolutely. That video was taken from my normal Monday night open forum Q&A session with the 2,000 plus members of the Aussie online entrepreneurs jump on a call together and they just ask me heaps and heaps of questions and I answer for them live. If you'd like to find out more about joining us at the Aussie Online Entrepreneurs, we've got over 2,000 members and growing. We're the fastest growing e-commerce community here in Australia. Then you can find out more by going to www.aussieonlineentrepreneur.com.au. See you next time.